Good morning, church family. Pastor Blake here, and I just want to say just a huge thank you for your generous giving to the Great Commission offering. If you've not heard yet, we took in over $107,000, which is the most we've ever collected. If I had a confetti cannon, I'd be shooting it off right now. So thank you so much for your generosity. And you know, when you give to the Great Commission offering, you're supporting missionaries all around the globe. And you're supporting missionaries that we know and that we love. And you're supporting missionaries like Chris and Caroll Sills, who serve with reaching and teaching in Ecuador. And as you can see, I'm excited that they're here with us this morning on this video call, and we're excited to hear from them. So hello, Sills family.
Hi, good morning from Ecuador.
Well, it's so good to have you guys. So many of us in the church know who you are. We know your name, but there are some watching this morning that know nothing about your family, the ministry that you're involved in Ecuador. Why don't you just give us a quick synopsis of what you guys are involved in there in Ecuador?
Sure, we'd be happy to. Well, we are Christopher and Caroll Sills. We have 5 kids. We have Abraham and Elizabeth, Marielle, Naomi Catherine, Thomas, and we have another little girl due at the end of May soon. And so we have been here in Ecuador with Reaching and Teaching. As you said, we've been here a little less than 8 years. And our goals are really twofold here. And the first is to evangelize the lost of Ecuador and see them come to saving faith in Jesus Christ. And the second goal that we have is to teach and to train church leaders, pastors, so that they can be better equipped to do the job that God has called them to do.
Well, I know the Lord has called you guys to a ministry there in Ecuador, and it's been a fruitful ministry. But obviously, your life, your ministry has been impacted over the last several weeks with COVID-19. How has the pandemic changed just your everyday life?
Yeah, so I think it's similar to what we see in a lot of the world, where all ministry activities have moved to online, be that Zoom or WhatsApp. We're communicating with church members and pastors around the country, trying to keep up with them and continue meeting via the internet. So that's really a huge change for us and for people here. As far as our family, we're under a curfew in Ecuador from 2 p.m. to 5 a.m. So there's no leaving during that period. And then once a week, we are able to drive. And so Christopher drives and goes to the store. There's 1 member per family allowed out at a time. And so he goes and does our shopping. That's pretty different. And so there's the social distancing. We can't see anyone in person, but by the grace of God, we're continuing as best we can. So.
Oh, that's great. You guys are obviously in a different culture, and sometimes with living in a different culture means different food items that we might eat. In Ecuador there, what is something that you guys might eat? Just as a fun fact, that would be totally disgusting to us Americans.
Yeah, so guinea pig is the delicacy here that
Yes.
we enjoy and is a really big deal here.
Yes, our kids enjoy it. It's called cuy, but guinea pig, yes, it's our delicacy.
Nice. So if you come back to the States and you're having a meal over at a Ninth and O member's family's house, they've got a guinea pig. That guinea pig needs just to be just a little bit nervous when the Ecuadorian family walks in.
That's right. That's exactly.
All right, I'm continuing here with the Q&A with Chris and Caroll Sills, who serve in Cuenca, Ecuador. And we've got a number of questions just that we're going to be asking them and just learning more about their lives on the mission field. But Chris and Caroll, I know that you guys have been in Ecuador for, how many years has it been exactly again?
A little less than 8 years.
Okay, a little less than 8 years. You know, when you first made that move, now I know your family was different, smaller, but what were some of the adjustments that you had to make in moving from the Midwest down to Ecuador?
I think aside from cultural changes, I think as far as ministry goes, we had to learn how to do ministry more as a family. Our first couple of years here really were characterized by my traveling to some of the rural areas to visit the pastors and things who are part of and people who are part of our trainings. But because our family was younger, we had littler kids then, and we didn't have our car our first year. And so it just made traveling together as a family a little bit more complicated. And so it looked like me traveling by myself to go visit with these pastors. But we realized that that just really wasn't going to work for our family. It wasn't the best. It wasn't the wisest use of our time and our gifts as a family. And so we decided that we needed to make some changes to allow us to do that more, to travel more together, to work more together. And so that has been a blessing over the last few years, being able to develop that and change that in a way that allows us to work more together.
I think too, learning to live without community. We came and we didn't have other missionaries with whom we were working, and having left Ninth and O, where we were serving in different areas or part of a small group there, learning to live where it was just us and depending on one another, and our family being all that we had was a different kind of, I mean, that was an adjustment for sure. So
very good. You know, obviously everything about life pretty much changes when you move to a new culture. That includes home life, parenting. You know, how does parenting maybe look a little bit different that you're in Ecuador than if you had been maybe in the United States?
You know, I feel we haven't parented in the US really. So I feel like I can't answer this question with a lot of authority. Our oldest was a little less than 18 months old when we moved to Costa Rica for language school. And so I would say based on furloughs, I think our life here is a little bit maybe slower and more simple. Our kids spend most of their time with our family. So in that sense, their siblings are their closest friends. We don't have a huge community of people here with whom we can spend time and do life in that sense. Thankfully, God has given us a family over the last year who has children who are a little bit older than us. And so we've been able to glean from them and learn from them. But until that, I remember talking in our first years repeatedly about how much I missed Ninth and O and being a part of a class and being able to be in community with people where we could learn from other parents and have that sense of community of doing life together and learning from others. So
very good. You know, I'm curious what people are like in Ecuador. What are your neighbors like? The people that live in your town? How would you just describe them?
The people in Cuenca, where we live and work, are a little bit different from the rest of the culture of the country in the sense that they are much more private, and they're much more reserved. So at first glance, especially when we first came here, it was a big adjustment because we expected the people here to be like the people in other parts of the country. But they felt very cold to us, and not very warm and inviting. And I think a lot of that was just getting to know the culture and seeing that they are much more private. They are very family oriented. So they spend a lot of time with their own family members. And they're very hardworking. They value work. They value education. But as you get to know them, you can see, especially among believers, you can see that they really are warm people and they desire relationships. But it's a little bit of work to get to that point. So,
and kind of building off of that, you know, what is the average Ecuadorian? How do they view the United States? Maybe that's a dangerous question.
Yeah, it's a little tricky, obviously, because I'm speaking about a lot of different people. But I would say, in general, we see two main attitudes, at least here, towards people from the United States, towards the U.S. I think there's a group who views it as a place of wealth and hope, a place where you can go and make lots of money. And then there are others who view it as a place that's mostly dangerous, where people are materialistic and they don't value family and they work all of the time. And so we encounter some who are more friendly towards people from North America than others here. But yeah, there's a mix of attitudes.
That makes sense. You know, I'm curious also, obviously having been on the mission field for 8 years, you guys have seen a lot of things. You've gone through a lot of things. You've had good seasons in ministry. You've had challenging times in ministry. The same even in your home as well. You know, as you guys just had to persevere through some of those hard times and challenges, what's helped you to do that?
That is a really good question, because as you say, we have walked through some difficult times in our time here. One of the biggest things that has helped us to persevere is just focusing on the truth. Focusing on the truth of God, on his character, on his goodness and his wisdom, and just trusting in the promises that we see in his word, and just trying to base our responses to our situations on what his word teaches us. We've learned to rely a lot more on each other, which has been very helpful for our marriage. God has also put different friends and counselors in our path along the way to kind of help speak truth to us, or confirm what we suspect to be truth, or help us to see more clearly from a more objective point of view. And even like pastoral counsel. We've talked to Dr. Cook a number of times since we've been here, and that's just been such a true blessing to us to be able to have that pastoral oversight and supervision over us, even since we've been here. But even like when we go back for our stateside assignments, our furloughs, it's been helpful to reconnect with friends and with family, and just to have that investment in us, and being able to also pour into them, but like being close by. Obviously it's good to have technology, but it's something different to be right there with someone as well. And but also, I would say lastly, being intentional here in our relationships, and seeking to plant roots, and being here, being present here, has been a true help as well. And just as those relationships here have grown and developed, that has given us a lot of stability in the moments when it's been a little bit more unsteady, unstable.
Well, I'm glad that seems like you guys have made connections there. And then, even behind me, you can read where it says every missionary needs a rope holding church. And that means that as missionaries, as you guys go down to the pit of missions, as William Carey said, you need people on the other end of that rope, supporting you, holding you up, and pulling you out when you need help. And I'm glad that there have been people back here in the United States that have been able to do that for you. And you specifically mentioned our pastor, so grateful for that. Well, it's not all work all day long. So surely there are things that you guys like to do, hobbies, things that you want to do to maybe to help you relax. What are some of those things that maybe you guys do as a family or as individuals?
Yeah, so we spend a lot of time outside, whether that's a fire pit in the backyard or going hiking in the mountains down the road from us, camping in national parks. There's a river right down from us that we like to go walking by. We'll read or do puzzles, play games, hang with friends, watch Andy Griffith.
There you go. So Chris, you're not pursuing a career in professional wrestling anymore?
Not yet.
Not yet, yeah. Hey, so you guys have been down there for 8 years, and I know that you've had changes in ministry. Even in the last year, there's been some thoughts on maybe doing ministry a little bit different for you all. As you look to the future, and obviously we only go where the Lord leads, but as you kind of think about the future of your ministry, where you want to be in a few years, 5 years down the road, you guys have any thoughts on where God might be leading you all?
Yeah, that's another really, really good question. We still hope, I would say we still hope to be involved in the same kinds of trainings that we're doing, where we're still investing in the leaders and pastors here, because that's huge. A huge part of our focus in ministry, and it's really important to us as we see that the need is still so great for that here. Another very specific thing for us as a family that we hope to see our ministry grow in is biblical counseling. So right now I'm pursuing a doctorate in biblical counseling, and that's one of the things that we value here. We want to help see churches here integrate more into their ministries, if possible. And so we have even considered the possibility of starting a biblical counseling center or something like that, where we can teach others more specifically how to counsel others from God's word, but also to provide that type of counseling for church members whose pastors maybe don't feel equipped to provide that. And so just continuing to disciple in that very specific way through counseling is a huge passion of ours. So in 5 years, that's what I would like to see. I would like to see us be more involved in that, along with what we're already doing in our training.
Oh, that's great. Chris, it's interesting that you mentioned that you're pursuing a doctorate. One day you may be Dr. Sills, hopefully in the future. I overheard one of my 7-year-olds the other day telling a neighbor friend, she said, yeah, my dad's a doctor, but he's not the real kind. Not the kind that really helps people. So you got that coming with your kids, but I hope that goes well. And obviously, if you guys are going to be in ministry for a number of years, you need encouragement. You need people to encourage you. Has there ever been anyone that has really encouraged you in your ministry somewhere along the way in just a really special way? We'd love to hear that story.
Yeah, so I think one of the most encouraging things for us has been having people come and visit us. So we had members from 9th and O, current and former, Paul Schuster, Jason Mackey, Beth Blackwell, people who we loved and knew then, who have come and ministered alongside of us, or just spend a week with our family just to encourage us. And that has been probably one of the greatest things that the Lord has used to encourage us during our time here doing ministry with us.
Yeah, I would say too, just along that note, people checking in with us and asking us how we are, just, aside from ministry, how are you doing? What's going on with you guys? Those kinds of questions. And the Eldridges have been very instrumental in that, and their BFG that has adopted us have just loved on us in tremendous ways over the last few years, and have truly ministered to us in that way. So yeah, we feel very loved by them.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and it's a good reminder just hearing those names that you mentioned of that it takes an army, to care for a missionary. It takes a lot of people, and we all need each other. Well, you guys are seasoned veterans now on the mission field, and Chris, maybe the gray hairs are starting to come in like they are on my head. But if you could go back to a young Chris, or Caroll, you could go back to a young Caroll 15 years ago, let's say, and give yourself a piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
I think specifically regarding ministry, maybe I would say it's just some simple things, especially for if there's anyone thinking about serving overseas. What I would say is to seek out a team. Seek out people that are like-minded, that you would feel comfortable and confident going with and serving alongside. When we came here, we had planned to come with a team, but it didn't work out for various reasons. And so our first few years here, we were alone and lonely as a result in many ways. The Lord has sustained us, and we're grateful to see how He's used that in our life now. But I would definitely encourage anyone to go with a team. Personally, for myself, I would have chosen to have more ministry experience, just be more involved in some type of ministry leadership before getting to the field. Because when you're on the field, then you're expected to fulfill those roles that sometimes you haven't been equipped or you don't have the experience in. And maybe lastly, as far as ministry goes, I would encourage myself to wait until we are fully funded. Like when we came here, we were not fully funded. We came here with the confidence and faith that some of the people who had made us promises that so we came here in August, and some people had said, oh, but when the new year comes, we'll start supporting you. And so we came here trusting that would be the case, and it was. But still, I think if we could go back and do it again, it would have made life a little bit more maybe easy to jump into ministry and not be so distracted with the burden of seeking to be to be funded. But as far as ministry goes, those are some of the things that I would say.
I think personally too, I would just look back and say, pour yourself into relationships in the local church body. Know others well and be known well. Spend a lot of time with them and glean from them and be poured into in that. And to remember, you know, we have experienced a lot of different things, be that loss of babies or heartache or disillusionment with relationships, different things. And I think just remembering, like, through all of that, God is faithful and he's sovereign and his will for us is good. And so at every step, like, keep running to Jesus and keep looking to Jesus and pour into each other and remind each other, speak truth continually to yourself and to one another, remembering that, like, this life is passing. It's just a breath, and life is a gift and it's good. And we can breathe and know that God is good. So.
Chris, Caroll, it's been wonderful just chatting with you for a few minutes, asking a few questions, hearing more about your life there in Ecuador. As a church here at 9th and O, as I speak for our church, we're very thankful for you, for the sacrifices you've made to be there. We know that it's hard. We know that mission work is really hard, and there's so much spiritual warfare and battles that are being waged against you all. We love you. We're praying for you. If somebody who's watching this video says, hey, you know what, I'm really interested in connecting with the Sills, supporting the Sills, is there a way that they could do that?
Absolutely. Probably the easiest way would be to go to Reaching and Teaching's website and click on the profile for Give to a Missionary, choose our profile, and you'll see a little bit of information about us. We need to update our picture on there, but include some of the newer kiddos in our family, in our clan. But yeah, that would be the best way. Also, anyone is welcome to email us. I think the 9th and O has our email address, so anyone could feel free to reach out to us and just ask us questions or get to know us through that as well.
Yeah, and Facebook, Christopher Sills or Caroll Sills on Facebook. You can look us up and then we can connect via email or WhatsApp or however. But we'd love to do that.
Yeah. So if you're watching this video and you can't find Reaching Teaching's website and you can't find their email and you can't find them on Facebook, feel free to email me, call me here at the church, and I'll get you in contact with Chris and Caroll. Guys, thank you so much for being a part of this Q&A. We're praying for you, we're thankful for you, and we're grateful to know that when we give to the Great Commission offering as a church, it's going to people that are really doing the Lord's work, people who are doing Christ-centered ministry. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
We love y'all.